Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to crochet a Christmas tree beanie. I also have this available in a bucket hat version, so if anyone wants a tutorial for a Christmas tree bucket hat, please let me know and I can make a separate video for that. We're going to be using crafting beads as the lights of the tree. I'm using weight for yarn and I'm using acrylic yarn. That's important to note for beanies because beanies have to be stretchy and acrylic yarn is very stretchy. I am using a 5.25 size hook. I probably wouldn't go much bigger for a beanie. 5.0 would be fine, 5.5 might be fine, but you're going to want to stick close to this range for weight for yarn. Before we make a slip knot or do anything, we are going to add the beads to the yarn so that while we're crocheting with this yarn, the beads will already be there. We will continuously be moving them up to our project and then just inserting them. So we're going to put about 35 beads on. I just use a, what is this called, tapestry needle, for helping put on the beads. And then I'm just going to do a variety of colors. Obviously skip green ones because the yarn is going to be green. I mean, this is pretty different green from the one that I'm using, the yarn that I'm using. So I feel like that actually wouldn't even be that bad, but I just put on all these assorted colors to be like Christmas tree colors. Now that I have all of these on, I'm gonna close this up and I'm going to push the beads all the way back on the yarn for now, because we don't need the beads for our chaining. This is going to be a beginner-friendly tutorial, so if you've never done a beanie before at all, I am going to explain the process of a beanie. So we are going to start with a slip knot, and we are going to chain until you have the length of about 12. I like to make it longer because you can always fold beanies. You can go even longer than that if you would like. It's gonna be about like 40 chains. I'll say at the end after I do mine how many it is, but it's obviously going to differ if you're using different yarn or a different hook size than me. Even our tension is going to be different, so go with the measurement instead of counting chains. I did 43 chains, but I'm going to add just one more because we're skipping two. To do half double crochets. So now we're going to do a row of half double crochets. We're just going to skip the one closest to the hook and the second one to go into the third one, just because skipping two leaves us enough space to do a half double crochet. Okay, so we're going to go into that third one with a half double crochet. We're going to be doing half double crochet this whole entire project, except at the end when we're just slip stitching. So if you know half double crochet, you'll be good. We will be doing ribbing though in the back loop only, but that will start in the next row. So we are going to half double crochet across this whole row like I said. Whenever I do beads on a beanie, I do beads on every other row. So I'm gonna just make this first row and I'll show how to insert the beads on the next row, which is also when we're gonna start ribbing. Okay, I just did the last half double crochet for that row. I also wanted to mention you should leave your little tail. Don't leave it in, don't crochet it in, because it's going to be helpful for at the end when we do a drawstring with the other tail, like the ending tail. Then we tie the two together to keep it tight. Obviously I'll show that at the end, but I just want to warn that it's nice to have this tail to work with at the end. So we are going to chain two and turn our work. This is the length of the beanie, but we're working this way. And first I will show how to do the ribbing. So we're going to half double crochet into the back loop only. When you're looking down at the half double crochet from the previous row, you can see that it kind of creates this V shape, and so the back loop is going to be this one. And so you're going in between the V basically, and you're ignoring this front one. So normally we'd go into here, but we're gonna go into here, except it's gonna be half double crochet, and we're just gonna do that all the way across. But I am going to be adding a bead. I typically do like 2 beads per row for a beanie. You don't have to be excessive with it unless you want to be. So I'm only gonna do them on every other row though, because you basically one row is gonna end up being the back, and so we want all our beads to be facing the right way, and it's just easier to be consistent if we're just doing every other row, if that makes sense. So you're gonna pull the first bead that you have up to the front near your hook, and you're going to keep it over here, not involved in the first yarn over. So you're just going to yarn over and not include the bead really. And then you're going to insert the hook into the back loop only. And then this is where you're going to push the bead in to make it like be in the center of what you're doing. And then you're going to pull the yarn through. You're going to push the bead through that gap that you've just created. And then pull the yarn through. So that's forcing the bead to be on this side of our project. And so if we do that every time, it's always going to be consistent. The beads are always going to be facing the right way. So now we're going to half double crochet until we have another spot where we want to put beads. I don't really plan it out in advance. I just throw them in there and I kind of stagger them when I have more rows done. So like this one will be here, and then I'll put another one over here, but then the next row that we're doing beads, I'll put it like in the middle of those two. You do want to be careful going too close to the edge though with the bead, because you are going to end up folding this up at some length depending on how well the hat fits you or whoever the hat is for. So you want to avoid like having the bead be here, because then when it has a fold, it's just going to be hidden. So I like to say like above this line, and this side where the tail isn't there is going to be the side that you fold, and then this side where the tail is going to be the top of the beanie. So that's the side that, this is the side that you're going to avoid putting it down too low. So about here is where you want to stop doing beads. The only other way to get around that would be to put it, this would be the only time where you would put a bead on the next row, like the row where we weren't going to put beads. If you put it like all the way at the end, then obviously when you fold up the beanie, the bead is going to be there. I could do one like that to show like how that would end up being. Let's do another bead here. So we are yarning over, inserting the hook, pulling through, pushing the bead through that gap, and yarning over and pulling through again. Then you just keep going till the end. And like I said, you can obviously add more beads if you want to. Now I'm at the end. I'm just going to chain 2 and turn. And then this will be a row where we just don't have any beads. This is going to be the back side. But I could put a bead, probably I would just do it maybe within the first 4 stitches if you want to have one on this side to be like part of the fold. That's a good idea to do every once in a while. So I will do that on the 3rd stitch, I think. 1, 2, 3, but you don't have to do that at all. You could just have this row, and that's what I'm going to do for probably the rest of the beanie. Occasionally I'll do it on the side, but for the most part you'll have every other row that you just don't put beads in at all, unless you want to. Oh, I didn't do ribbing. Don't forget to do ribbing. It's okay if you don't do it in the first one, but then the rest, back loop only. Okay, now I'm doing it in the 4th. Yarn over, go in, push the bead through, and then continue the work. And then when this is done and we fold it, it'll be on the side with its friends. So continue doing the back loop only, half double crochet until the end of this row. That's actually what we're going to be doing the whole time, but I will show it a couple more times so everyone knows what's going on and kind of examples of bead placements throughout. So this row is just going to be plain without beads. I'm at the end of the row. I'm going to chain 2 and turn, and then we'll be back on the side that is the front. The tail will be on your right side. The beads will be facing you. And we are going to half double crochet, back loop only, just like we've been doing. So now I'm going to put a bead in between the last two from the last row. Actually, I'm going to do a couple more stitches. Then I'm going to bring this one in. And since I do have that bead here, I think I'm gonna just leave it like that and just do one bead for this row. And now I'm at the end of this row, chaining 2, turning my work. I'm not gonna do any beads on this next row. So we are just gonna have double crochet all the way across. And you're gonna do this until the hat fits you all the way around your head. It's going to be about 34 rows, give or take. So once you start getting close to that, once you get to like 30, then start testing it. I always just I fold in half, and then it's gonna be like a lot longer than this. So then I just put that around my head, but it should fit around your head stretched. Like, it shouldn't just fit around your head automatically. You should have to stretch it if you're using acrylic yarn to have it fit around your head. And when you're stretching it, it should probably equal about 23 inches, like totally stretched. 23 inches in width. I'm gonna show one more row of the bead side just to show more examples of putting the beads on, and then you can continue on doing the rows until you get to about 34 and you test to see if it's stretching around your head. So I'm going to do a couple stitches. You don't want to do the beads too close to the top either, because we're going to drawstring the top and it will get like kind of ruffled, and so the bead could get like lost, like it won't be very visible. So don't be like going in the first stitch or anything. Steer clear of the edges. Okay, let's see. I think probably here and here. Let's surround the yellow. By the way, since I mentioned 34 rows is about the goal, if you don't know how to count ribbing or have never done ribbing before, every raised part is going to be 2 rows. Actually, I'd rather turn it over and show it this way. So this, if you're counting just the raised parts, then you would count by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8. But like this underneath part where we have the beads is a row as well. So if you want to count by 1s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But if you want to count quickly, you can just count by twos and just count the raised part of the ribbing. Here is what my project looks like after I've done 34 rows. I ended up only doing 3 on the back. And you should end up on the side that is the opposite of the tail side, because now we're going to slip stitch up this way, and then we'll end up being on the same side as the tail side once we do a slip stitch. So we're going to fold the project in half and have the beads lay on top of each other on the inside, because then we're going to end up turning it inside out when we're done with the drawstring. And then you're going to go to the part where you ended, and we are going to put these two ends together, and we are going to slip stitch them together. So you go into this one, and then you go into this one on the other side. I tighten this 1 second, and then you just pull through everything. And then you just keep doing that. The stitches should line up so that you're doing 1 and 1, and then you'll end up being at the same stitch, 2 stitches at the end, but it's okay if you're a little bit off. It doesn't matter too much. But we're just going to do this all the way up until we get to the part where, well, where it's the end, but we'll see the tail where we started the project. And I used all 35 of my beads, by the way. I used 34 by the end, and then I just used the last one to get it out of the way of the yarn, but it wasn't like necessary, so it was a good amount. It's nice to have extra beads just in case, but it is annoying to have like so many beads on the yarn because you have to keep pushing them back. So I try to find that middle ground whenever I do bead projects, that you want to have a little bit of wiggle room, but you don't want to be struggling a lot with the beads being attached to the yarn and having so many of them. So now I'm at the end. I'm going to chain 1 and pull a really big tail, because we're going to use this ending tail to make the drawstring. So cut off the yarn at a good length for the tail, and get your needle to start making the drawstring. So for drawstring, you just go in and out at kind of like even intervals, but random. So you do that all the way around until you're back at the beginning, and you'll know because you still have your other tail here. And then we're going to pull the drawstring closed so that there's just no space on the top of the hat at all. And you're going to hold it really tight, and as you're holding it tight, you use the tail that we're not using right now, the one we saved, to tie a knot around the drawstring tail that we're pulling, so that it kind of lets it stay tight. And then you can go back in with either tail to go back and forth. If you still have a little bit of a gap, you can just like go in between to close it off. Although I actually am pretty gapless. That doesn't always happen. Oh no, that doesn't always happen to me. And then you'll just weave in both of the tails, and then we're gonna turn it inside out. You can leave the tail for help sewing the star on, like leave a little bit of tail. You could tie the star to the tails if you want, if you don't want to like cut off the tails just yet. I'm gonna cut this one shorter, and then do the same thing, but I'll just leave the tails for now. And then at this point, you're just going to inside out it, but if you leave the tails, don't forget that you've left the tails. You'll have to sew them in eventually. How cute does that look? And now we are going to take any yellow yarn to create the star, or really any color you want, because it's going to be a star shape. People will know what it is. White would be cute too. So we are going to make a slip stitch and chain 4, or you can make a magic ring if you want. I never really make magic rings, but some people prefer to do that, which is understandable. So then I'm just going to go into the chain 4 with, the first chain with a slip stitch to create a circle, and chain 1, and then there's going to be like an opening in between, not this first opening right here, but like in the middle of all the stitches that we've just done, like the chain. We are going to make a single crochet, a double crochet, and then we're going to chain 2 and make a double crochet, and that is creating a point of the star. And then we do the same thing again, make a single crochet, a double crochet, chain 2, and make a double crochet. So obviously we need 5 points of the star. So we do it again, single crochet, double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet again. So I'm going to move this over a little, single crochet, double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, single crochet, double crochet, chain 2, start that one over, double crochet. Then after that double crochet, we are going to do one more single crochet to make this smaller part and slip stitch into the beginning and pull this center tight, and we will leave a long tail for sewing onto the hat. And it creates this cute little star. It's such a simple little pattern, but it's very clear what it is. Then you're just going to sew the star on top of the hat in any way that you can. I'm not super great at sewing and applying like the appliques, so I will show what I'm doing, but obviously feel free to go in your own direction for sewing. But I like to have the stars stand up, so you're really only going to be sewing the bottom part. I'm going to automatically tie it together with this tail that we left, but then I'm going to keep going because that's not enough to keep the star sturdy. I've weaved in all my ends and I'm left with this. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and found it helpful. As always with my crochet tutorials, I will leave a link to my crochet Instagram so that if you want to ask me a question but you don't want to leave a comment, you can always just directly message me on Instagram. But you can also leave a comment if you want to. I will always answer comments or messages. Let me know if you have any questions, or if you make the hat, post it on Instagram, please tag me in it. And let me know what other kinds of tutorials you want me to do in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching.